What a Boochie! And on the ramp today we have France's finest, a Renault Laguna shooting brake, and the back brakes look as if they're on the bottom of the sea with the Titanic. Well, you might be thinking, well, what's he showing us this for? A rear disc, back discs. It's a bit boring, going away from the technical side of things. But these discs in the back of these Renaults, they're a wee bit unusual. Can be expensive for what they are. And you see how thin that is. They're actually pretty thin when they're new, and clearly. You know, it's only breaking in a portion of it. So we're going to change this, and the unusual bit about this is whenever you buy a new disc, you get the wheel burn, ABS pickup, everything. This is a disc and hub combo. Okay, so I have to get this pin pushed back here. They can be very stiff in there. Right, I've got the bottom one loosened, so there we go. So yeah, those pins are very stiff in there. So that's what seizes up on these calipers most of the time. It's not usually the piston, it's usually these slider pins here. Seize up in this rubber, so we'll show you a wee bit more to do that. So we'll just take this carrier bracket off. Right, okay. Can't get any power tools in there, so you just have to do that manually. Now, get this cap off. Nice sharp chisel, and we'll see if we can start this cap. Doesn't really matter if you damage this cap, because you get a new one with a disc and a new bolt. And we'll see if this will come here. These can be tight. No bar. And the disc should just slide off, and that's it. The stub axle's in pretty good nick. Just get rid of a bit of debris around it, but yeah, pretty happy with that. Everything's hunky-dory there. So this is clearly our ABS sensor or ABS pickup there. So yeah, we'll just give that a wee scoop with brake cleaner, and we'll get a wee bit of wheel burn grease on it there as well. So there's our disc, hub, bearing, and magnetic pickup ring combination, and the whole thing, that's it, all going in the bin. And here's a new one, and this is one of these ones that's coated, so there's no grease in this, so you don't have to clean any grease off. This company here calls it Bactac Coated. So yeah, bit of a budget brand this, but it'll do this car. It'll outlive the life of this car, I would say. We've got comes complete with our ABS magnetic ring there, wheel burn. So when you go to change rear discs on a Renault, you have to sort of know that you're going to get this whole complete package here. So it's a hub and a disc and an ABS pickup ring. So clearly, you know, changing the disc, it's going to be a good bit more expensive than just changing a disc on nearly any other car. So you get a nut and a new cap there with it as well. So new nut, new cap, and there's a fair bit. The important thing about doing this, putting this back on again, it is pretty simple job, but this nut, 280 Newton meters for this nut. So that's crucial because it's holding this bearing together, that torque. So if you just ugga-dugga it up, or just, you know, put it up with a ratchet or something, this bearing will wear out very, very quickly. So 280 newton meters on that nut. A wee bit of grease in our stub axle, and we'll offer our hub up, basically. Hub up with a disc attached. It really is. Put it on nice and straight. Slides on beautifully. So before putting the nut on, I like to put a wee taste of grease in here. That'll do. We'll offer a nut up. Okay, so 280 on this. So we'll get our bruiser of a torque wrench on. There we go, 280. We'll just make sure there's nothing catching or nothing untoward, making sure the fitment is okay, really. I have heard it before where, you know, the fitment wasn't great in some of these aftermarket products, and you know, the ABS magnetic pickup ring failed the ABS sensor, but nothing going on there, so we're good. We cap on then. So I've said this before in other videos, you know, believe it or not, these wee caps are, you know, they do an important role. You know, they keep the water out of that bearing. So you don't want to deform these or whatever. So with this kit here, you get a new one. But if you didn't have one, you want to take the original one off pretty gingerly. You see, I see it all the time where the original ones are, you know, they're all dinged and stuff. So, you know, so premature bearing failure. So not tightening that nut up correctly to the correct specified torque, premature bearing failure, and then damaging these caps as well. So people blame it on the product, you know. But anyway. Dead on. So clearly the next step is the carrier bracket. So we need to get this cleaned up in the wire wheel. Not too bad, you know, you don't really need to worry about it too much. A good wire brushing probably just do, you know, because the pads just sit in here, you know. The other thing, these calipers, I said at the start, these pins stick in this rubber, and that's the main cause for concern with these here. So if I can get this out the rest of the way here, because it's too sticky. So clearly, you know, the pin needs to be dressed up a wee bit, but that's not the reason really why these stick. It contributes to the stiction, but it's not the main factor. The main factor is that rubber then gets squeezed. It gets squeezed in due to aluminium oxide building up in these holes here. So this is the one off the other side, which was I had to end up taking off, so I could clean these out and get the piston retracted. Now the piston, you know, they just screw in sort of as normal, and these ones here, the dust seal is on the outside, so it's not on the inside like the Volkswagen, so it doesn't tend to trap the piston just badly. But the main cause of seizure in these is the pins here, the pins in the rubber that goes in here. The aluminium oxide builds up, so you just need to give that a bit of a scrape out, you know, even just with a screwdriver, a bit of emery paper in there, scoot it around your finger, and red rubber grease or some sort of rubber friendly grease on that, and you scoot it back in again. Now the best way of taking these out, I'm going to do this, I'm going to just leave this one in situ because the piston is retracting okay, and so I'm not going to bother disconnecting the handbrake cable like I had to do on the other side. So we'll just do that. So you need to apply a wee bit of force here, you know, but not too aggressive, really. I know it's a bit of a contradiction there, but so there's all that aluminium oxide in there, and if we can sort of free it a wee bit with a screwdriver and get a bit of the old lube juice in there and kind of crush it a bit and work that. It's just WD-40 I'm using there. Get that in around it there. Best we can. So you need to watch it. You need to watch with a screwdriver because you can rip these boots, like, you know. Another thing you could do if you're struggling is get a pair of long nosers and crush it, you know. So that's her out. Now this here, you know, you can clean that up a wee bit just with a rag, like there's not going to be too much grief on that, really. But the main issue is in there with all that white powdery stuff. So that's just the aluminium corroding. So this is the enemy with these aluminium type carriers or calipers, is aluminium corroding and tightening stuff up as a result of all that white powdery stuff. So this is another reason why you do not use copper grease anywhere near these aluminium calipers, because copper and aluminium don't like each other and you get galvanic corrosion taking place between the two dissimilar metals. So what we'll want to do is we'll just get a wee bit of emery cloth there. So right, get the finger in here, just a bit. So if I can't, we'll just put a wee bit in the tip of a screwdriver. And get as much of that aluminium oxide out as we can. You know, listen, believe it or not, it's not too bad. Seen a lot worse. So yeah, if there's any, you know, big sort of ridges in it, you know, you're nearly just better just scraping it with a screwdriver, you know. So anywho, we'll get our rubber thingamajigger and we'll use some rubber friendly grease. So that is a non-petroleum sort of base grease, you know. So you could use like a silicone based grease, or in this case here we've got the old red rubber grease. And if you use a petroleum based grease, it will basically melt the rubber. So you don't want that. So there we go. A bit of grease around it, and you just knead her in there. Lovely. And our slider pin, we've dressed it up with a bit of emery cloth there. Same again, wee bit of red rubber grease on it there, and slider in. So that is where you want to be with those slider pins. You want to be able to push that in and out with your fingertips. So you seen before I did that, I had to actually push that out with a pair of grips, and now we can push that in now with our fingertips. So yeah, just do the bottom one then. A couple of wee things about this particular type of piston here. So we'll have the usual, with two holes in it here, and this is going to rotate in. Now, some Renaults on the left hand side of the car, they rotate in with a left hand thread, and maybe even the right. But so you have to keep that in mind. Some of these can rotate in anti-clockwise as opposed to normal sort of clockwise. So they completely vary. There's no pattern to it. So you just have to keep that in mind. Some of these things can go in the other direction than normal. So we'll lift our wee boot up. Carefully, if you're using a pointy tool like this, you don't rip the boot. Piston looks in pretty good condition. But what I want to show here is that you have this groove where the rubber dust boot resides, and then you have this other groove here towards the front. So we'll see when that comes important. So you want to maybe give that a wee clear out if there's any dirt or muck in it. So what we're going to do, again, we'll scoot a wee bit of WD-40 in here, and if we lift her up, we'll get a wee bit onto the piston face itself. Let's get her right in, and that'll just assist with us pushing it in. As I say, these particular ones, they don't normally jam. The Volkswagen ones jam because of this dust boot, but these ones here are on the outside as opposed to being on an inner retaining mechanism. So not too bad. So we'll push that back in, or rotate it in. So this one's pushing okay. This dust boot here doesn't look the best though. It's starting to corrode underneath it, but the guy doesn't want to spend a lot of money on this car, so we're going to run with it. But anyway, if this piston doesn't push in like the way you want it to, you might have to do a quick sort of caliper refurb. Take the caliper off and take that piston out and grease it up. So I have a wee video of how to do that, and it's on a Volkswagen caliper, but it's basically the same sort of principle on all these things. So we just screw that in, and that'll do this. So this is the caliper actually from the other side, and I had to take this off because this piston was a bit sticky, and it looks to be slightly different. There's 4 holes in it as opposed to the 2 on the other one, but nevertheless, the point is, what I need to show you is that extra wee sort of ridge that's in it. So the one to the rearmost accepts the dust boot, and then the one towards the front, the one wee groove, as it were. If you look at the pads on these have these wee spring clips on them. So what you want to do is you want to clip that in. You don't really have to pull the dust boot back, but you shouldn't have to anyway. And that clips in like that. So you put the pad on the caliper piston there before you put the caliper on. Now, I'm sure a lot of people, they would just put the caliper into the carrier bracket, and whenever the piston pushes in, it's just going to push in them springs. They're not going to go into the groove. It's just going to flatten them springs, so it's not going to go in there. So I see that quite a lot. If you look at the old ones that come out, the springs, there's nothing left of them, but it's probable that the springs weren't accepted into the groove of the piston whenever they were fitted there. So that's the condition of the old ones there. So with our carrier bracket all cleaned up, this is the only place I use copper grease. It's just in the bits where you cleaned up, and you just sort of colour it, not too much at all. Don't plaster this stuff on. And that's really just to stop that what is now bare metal from corroding. Really, that's really all that is for. That's all really it does, you know. So again, no copper grease on aluminium. And we'll just put a wee taste of Retracting grease, ceramic grease, on the face there, and it's rubber friendly, so there's no problem. Again, just painting it, you know, not really putting a whole lot on it, you know. You just really want to sort of colour it with that. And then you see these ears, and you give them a bit of a rub or a bit of a file, you know, because again the aluminium oxide will corrode this and they'll be uneven. So just to prevent that, again, a bit of that white Ceratec and behind these ears of this caliper. No copper grease. Galvanic corrosion, copper and aluminium doesn't go. So copper grease is a thing of the past nearly. So with our fingers clean of grease, then we can get this pad in, hopefully. Hopefully you'll be able to see that. So it'll just slide in that forwardmost groove, hopefully. Famous last words. There we go, just like that. And we can offer in this pad then, just into there. Just maybe we'll hold it with a thumb and get the caliper on. That's us in position. I had to take the camera out of the way there because it's tight out there with a handbrake cable. Handbrake cable's bending on the part of the axle there, so I had to put a wee bit of slack in the handbrake cable, just give a pull towards me. But it comes anyway. You can get it just about. So we can get a wee tighten on these wee 7mm Allens there. If we can get this on. That's us now to get the brake pipe out of there a wee bit. So there's a bit of a fitter this job in these rolls. So we'll get those two in. Right, so that's our caliper fitted. You know, so we can still see there's lateral movement in here, and you know the brake pad is going to chatter about there if we leave it like that. Now, that was the way I got the car. It was just like that, and as you can see with these two holes here, there's parts missing. So both sides at the back were missing one of these spring clips. So it looks as if it hadn't been there for a while, because I've had to ream the holes out with a drill bit there. Not with a drill on it, like, just twisting it with my fingers. And we'll give it a bit of a scoot with loosener up juice, and we'll have a go at fitting this spring here. So I had a wee bit of difficulty getting these, so we think these are correct because we've nothing to relate it to, you know, because there was none there in the first place. So I'll get that in there, and I'll just hold that in with my thumb and scoot that around there like that. And there's chamfers here on these ears of the caliper, and you can see these here too can go in a wee bit further, so we'll pull that over the body there like that and just help her home. And that looks like it. We are cooking with gas. Job is a good one, and that's taking that lateral movement out, and that pad is now it's not going to chitter. So yeah, another pretty important piece to have. So we don't know whether, you know, the guys just lost them, or maybe whoever done the brakes in the past didn't think they were necessary or something. I don't know. Okay, well, I think that's hope you got something out of all that there, and I just have to do the other side now. So thanks very much for watching. All the best, and
High five.
high five.